Was that 3? Or just, or that was 3? Where's class flag? Gotcha, good to know.
We are live.
All right, we are here live at Race 1. Sorry, we had a slight postponement coming into the first race, just getting all the kinks ironed out as it is our inaugural Kite Foil League event. But we're here on day 1. We've got Race 1 in sequence now. As you can see behind me, that orange flag, a bit different than normal. We've decided there's that horn for 2 minutes if you couldn't hear behind me. What we're actually doing is that orange flag is both the starting line and it is the class flag for the kite foilers. So in this Formula Kite class, we've got about 18 kiters out here, 18 boats out, and they are lining up for this start. We're inside 2 minutes. As you can see behind me, Tucker Atterbury, our PRO, has decided to go for just a general prep flag to start. He's going to be nice to these kiters and see what tends to happen as they could push the line or not. I'm not quite sure yet which way tide is going right now. Looking out to the start boat, it does look as though it is flooding right now. So it's actually coming downwind towards us, and it should be pushing these kiters back. Then again, they are on foils, so we'll see how much adverse current that actually affects things as they trudge upwind. There's 1 minute prep flag down behind us, and kiters are starting to get into their final approach here. A lot of them are down to my right, down here, deep in the box, ready to come trudging upwind. We have heard confirmation from the race committee that we are going to go ahead with this race, so long as it's obviously not a general recall or anything. So as the kiters get into their final approach here, we're into the final 30 seconds approximately. And as they come up to the start line, we're going to see their kites start to dip behind me here. So start boat is over here to the right of your screen. Behind me here, the kiters are lining up. And as soon as you see their kites start to dip here, what's going to happen is that's getting that kite into the power zone for their acceleration. You can see, I believe it's Daniela Moraz, that's Will Sear, kiter number 4 on the far end of the line, dipping his kite first, and he's got a nice gap off, just up from the pin end. Meanwhile, Daniela Moraz arguably winning the boat there on that gray Fly Surfer kite, coming off the boat in bib number 1, with another black kiter, number 2, right on top of her. So as they're cruising upwind now, we did tend to see in this condition yesterday, the left tended to pay so long as you could push right into that edge of the course, and they are going to be bouncing off the shoreline here at Sherman Island in the Delta. It's quite a narrow race course, and they have to play the obstacles to their favor. As you can see on course, there are a number of channel markers. Now, the course is not laid in the channel. They are allowed to cross that channel as many times as they want, and they will. We might even see some ships come through today as we're racing, so the kiters will have to watch out for that. We've seen a couple wipeouts there on the first tax. Much of the fleet has split here. We've got the majority of the fleet going out left and working their way up that left-hand side. They haven't quite gotten to that far side of the channel, but out here on the right, the first kiters to bail have now banged the point. They might be able to nab a righty off that point. It's subtle, but it is there. We saw yesterday. And as they start going upwind, we'll see who gets the first crosses. My money right now is on these guys on the left as they come across. They're looking absolutely launched. Again, you can see that gray kite leading, arguably. That was Fly Surfer kites up on the top left. They do look as though they're getting across on these boats who had to bail outright. Keep in mind, those were probably the first guys that had to bail, so they might have started behind there a bit on that first split. On that cross there, you could see that first black kite out of the right actually did cross ahead, but probably in second or third place right now, so that righty did tend to pay off that point as they work their way upwind. The mark is far up there. You can barely see it on screen, that yellow dot right about in center of the course, just past those pilings. It's about a 1.1 meter 1.1 mile long leg of the course, and they're, as far as I'm concerned right now, they are doing 2 laps. So it'll be a windward lured course, upwind, downwind to a gate just above the start line, and back upwind again before coming downwind, rounding the pin end of the start line, and finishing on a reach that is on a vertical finish off just to the right-hand side of the start line. So up, down, and then a slight little death reach across to the finish. We should see some action there. It's definitely trouble keeping up with these kiters as they do some insane speeds going upwind. We were trying to keep up with them on the cameras yesterday, and it was absolutely horrendous trying to keep the camera steady for you. So we're trying to get drones up as we speak. Right now we're just down on a boat down near the start line, but we'll see as they come down into this gate rounding too, we could see some intense action. It looks as though the first kiter is just approaching the windward mark now. Most kiters have lined up on starboard, or at least look to be on that starboard lay approaching into the mark. First kiter is around, and it's definitely a fly surfer kite. I can see, we can't quite see the number, we're trying to get a camera up there for you, but fly surfer kite definitely, followed by a blue kite. So yesterday what we tended to see was actually kiter Will Sear and Evan Heffernan were quite tight at the top mark. So that could be Will Sear, I know, is on that fly surfer gray and green kite that could be leading. Either that or it's Daniela Maras, world champion kiteboarder. There's also a green and gray kite in position 3. And in position 2nd is a blue kite, likely to be Evan Heffernan. Marcus Edegren also should be in the mix somewhere. As we round this top mark, we can expect to see him a lot today towards the front. He's been training a lot and working his way up the fleet over the past year. So as they come downwind here, one thing they have to watch out for, and is actually quite tricky, we noticed yesterday, is some of these pilings that are spread out across the course. There's only 2 or 3 of them, but we did see a couple kiters the other day during some practice racing go for a tack or a jibe out of the windward mark and forget about a piling. Now they were able to not get tangled on those pilings, but it's going to be tough, especially as we pan down here over to the left at the gate. As you can see, there is a piling just to the right off of it. So if you round that mark, what's going to happen, and hopefully they're thinking about this as they come downwind, is they're already thinking about their exit out of the mark and whether they can tack and cover someone else. Now, coming into the mark at the bottom, it looks as though this black kite actually has taken over the lead. So Johnny Heineken on this black, what looks to be ozone kite, definitely a 21 meter kite, as that thing is massive, and that makes sense on how he's been able to generate so much boat speed. Now, he hasn't been training too much from what I've heard around the boat park, but he is absolutely cruising coming into this bottom mark here. So Johnny Heineken rounding here at the bottom mark, chooses the right hand gate as he decides to go back upwind. He's going to have a hard time here if he wants to tack and cover anyone with that piling. Now Evan Heffernan rounding the port hand gate off your screen to the left. He's come around with that blue kite and decides to split from the lead 2 boats out on the right hand side. They have gone for attack. Johnny Heineken coming for attack here out on the right hand side to come and cover. There goes Daniela Maras out the right hand side gate 2. We'll see what they're looking for out there on that right hand side of the course. There is a lot of pressure coming down the center of the channel right now. As you can see on the water, there's a lot of dark spots, and it does tend to get more lighter wind out on that right hand side of the course. You can see more pressure on the left hand side. However, there might be a sort of shift that Johnny was looking for out on that right hand side. We'll see who comes back across as they go upwind. Evan Heffernan out on the left hand side of the course is still going out left. He's trying to create maximum separation here from Johnny Heineken, who's that leader, and he's trying to keep that separation, keep that risk in his favor as he cruises out to the top left of the course. Hopefully he can find a lefty out there, and he might be able to put some gain on Johnny Heineken, currently leading in the black kite. So as we come out the gate here. Now just about all kiters, it looks like, maybe one is still on their downwind. All kiters pretty much though have rounded these leeward gates, and they're working their way back upwind for what we believe is a 2-lap race. So they're on their second upwind here. Again, it's super quick racing. These athletes are working as hard as they can. As we caught up with Ryan Satterberg yesterday in an interview you'll see later, he was actually talking about how physical it is and how you have to just basically stay in a full squat, fully loaded up for about 10 minutes straight and hold that pressure while still dialing in your foil as nicely and as fine-tuned as possible as you're screaming upwind at about 30 knots with about 40 knots of apparent wind in your face. So as you can imagine, this is quite physical stuff, working their way upwind towards that windward mark. We can already see the top boats are approaching it once again. So these races are lightning quick. We can't even keep up with them on the water in the motorboat with a 115 horse engine, as it's just too difficult. So we will try to get a drone up to you shortly, but as they approach this top hand mark, it's really tight at the top of the course. Again, Johnny Heineken decided to play that right hand side of the course. He did decide to flop off. Now whether that's an indicator of whether he was actually losing to Evan Heffernan, who decided to split left from third place out of the gate, is your guess is as good as mine. But it does look as though we see a black kite in the lead right now, so that is likely Johnny Heineken working his way into that windward mark with Evan Heffernan hot on his heels. They do look to be at about ley line level, and another kiter just behind Evan Heffernan. So our top three heating up very nicely in this race, and it's clear that this regatta is going to be hotly contested for title. This #1 event of the Kite Foil League, this inaugural event here today at Sherman Island in Northern California. So as they round the windward, you can see kites rising up. Actually, Evan Heffernan in third here, third kite to rise around. Johnny Heineken heating up over the top, getting rolled by an orange kite. Kai Calder on that orange kite. He did go for a full roll there on Johnny Heineken, but it looks like Johnny Heineken jibes out and is coming back out. Now, meanwhile, Evan Heffernan able to jibe right out of the mark while those two were messing with each other on that top left-hand side of the course coming out of the windward. Now, Evan Heffernan might be able to get some pressure here coming down this right-hand side of the course looking upwind. Again, they're coming downwind, so looking downwind, Evan's trying to play the left. Kai Calder trying to take out Johnny Heineken in the #1 spot of this race #1 of Kite Foil League, event #1. So coming downwind, it doesn't look as though Kai Calder was quite able to roll, but now he is ready for the jibe back on Johnny Heineken if he can jibe early and cast some cover on him. They're absolutely cooking downwind. Now we'll see if Evan Heffernan was able to gain anything by splitting on those top two leaders, Kai Calder and Johnny Heineken. Kai Calder going for the jibe there on the orange kite, Johnny Heineken following and matching. So he's got maximum power out of his kite. He's digging low, trying to not get rolled here by Kai Calder. Kai Calder on the orange kite, screaming across your screen there. They're very far away, still only halfway down the downwind. We don't know here if they are actually rounding the gate and going back upwind. I believe they're just coming into the pin end of the line and finishing. Judging by their approaches to this, it does look as to be that's the case. Evan Heffernan coming across here on the left-hand side of your screen, definitely still in third place, not quite able to gain yet. Kai Calder going for the jibe, gets over the top. Johnny Heineken cruising in here, extending his lead, and there's no chance it looks like Kai Calder is going to be able to cast any sort of shadow and get over the top. Now this orange kite coming across your screen, cruising on the right hand side, is not on the same leg downwind, don't get too confused, but that orange kite on the left orange kite coming in as they round this pin, they're going to make a left hand turn and a screaming reach in across the finish here. Johnny Heineken in the one as he comes around the pin end of the line there on the final leg to the finish. Kai Calder hot on his heels though in second, one mistake and he could lose it. Although we don't expect to see that from this veteran, Johnny Heineken in jersey #2, followed by Kai Calder, jersey number 23, cruising into a comfortable second place as they were able to mess with each other and still extend on number 3 spot, Evan Heffernan. And that rounds out your top 3 here. Now, Evan might have been a little bit contemptuous or a little bit cautious, per se, on that downwind. We'll have a quick interview here with Evan as he catches his breath. Now, we were talking to Evan yesterday, and we'll get an interview out to you as the rest of the guys do finish the race. And these kiters come in behind us here. We're going to interview Evan as he catches his breath. He's still breathing hard, we can tell. So, Evan, what were you thinking going into that race?
Yeah, well, so most of us went on 11s, and it's pretty light right now, so kind of just had to keep the speed on and connect the dots. You know, it was a little pin favored and left favored, I think, so that was my primary game plan, to kind of start pin third and play out to the left, and don't be afraid to take extra maneuvers there to stay in the left and stay in the pressure. But yeah, it was a tricky one. Johnny and Kai, we're going pretty quick downwind. I think Johnny's on a 13, so he's got a little more power on the downwinds and kind of has the speed up, but pretty good.
Yeah, it looked like they were able to actually separate, and or you were able to separate, I should say, and try to get them messing with each other a bit in that 1-2. Was that your game plan going into some of those downwinds?
Yeah, coming into that final top mark, they were pretty tight, and I was a little behind, and I kind of needed to make something happen, so went for the early kind of jibe out around the top mark, let them kind of play with each other and let me kind of sail my own race and really just kind of connect the dots downwind and stay in the pressure.
Now, you were still able, all 3 of you in that top 3 were actually pushing each other so hard that you were able to extend on the rest of that race from all the other, per se, leaders in the pack. So you were able to extend as a 1-2-3 pack, and even though you came in that 3rd spot in this first race of the Kitefoil League event number 1 in Northern California, what happened was you were able to extend. So how hard do you think that was, you guys pushing each other? Will we continue to see that in races to come?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely us pushing each other, but also it's a big pressure game right now. So if you get a little bit ahead, that gives you kind of the opportunity to get into that better pressure sooner and extend out. So a little lead right now allows you to kind of play more with what you have on the race course, where if you're fighting with guys around you, you get a lot more caught up in the boat-on-boat action as opposed to just sailing your own race.
Copy. And one more question for you here before we let you go and catch your breath more into the second race of the set. What we saw yesterday, quite a big biff from you on one of the practice races coming in. You were full kook. We actually clocked it at what? It was 37 knots going downwind, full speed racing into the finish, and you must have hit something in the water, we said, because the crack we heard from halfway up the course was absolutely massive. Luckily, no board damage, no head damage, no nothing. But do you think that caused you to be maybe a bit more cautious in this first race on that downwind, or how do you think that played into anything, or were you able to just put that out of your mind?
Yeah, I mean, with what we're doing, that tends to happen sometimes if you hit logs or anything in the water, and you kind of got to be able to just move past that pretty quickly. Luckily, I'm able to wear like impact protection, padded wetsuits, helmet, goggles, and you know, all that stuff gives you the peace of mind that when you are pushing it, that you're going to be safe. So I mean, you gotta kind of put that yesterday and keep moving forward here, but definitely was a pretty hard impact yesterday.
Yeah, it looked like it. We could hear it from halfway up the course, almost half a mile away. I heard it right as I turned upwind and saw you ragdolling about 3 times head over heels, so that looked like it hurt for sure. But we'll let you get back into race mode here. Take a break, grab a drink. We've got 2 more races in this set. We'll come at you shortly here live once all the racers finish. And we will try to get up a drone shortly here for this second race so that we can follow the action more closely. Yeah, we'll be right back at you here in about 5 minutes on another live stream, so stay tuned to the channel, Salty Brothers Films and KFL Kitefoil League.